Hi there, I'm Tom Spencer. This week on Central Texas Gardener, John Gambini from Texas Hill Country Olive Company explains what really goes into olive oil. He also shows us how to grow trees of our own. On tour, Carla Oldenkamp wanted organic food for her family in a pretty garden, complete with a Zen Hen House. Daphne makes her pick of the week, and John has your backyard basic tip. So let's get growing right here, right now.
Support for Central Texas Gardener comes from GeoGrowers, offering custom soil blends for lawns, gardens, xeriscaping, and organic landscaping supplies. More information at geogrowers.net.
When Carla Jean Oldenkamp wanted to control the food her family eats, she planted it. She also wanted a pretty garden and a Zen Hen House. Here's her story.
Well, this is my chicken's morning snack, and in here is zucchini and squash, oats and quinoa, and fresh pulp from our carrot juice that we are drinking this morning for breakfast. They usually get some yogurt for their digestion, but they're out of yogurt this morning. And they get their melon. It's either watermelon or cantaloupe. So I'm going to go in and give my girls, I have 7 chicks and a rooster, who you can hear very well. So I'm going to go in their coop and give them their breakfast. This is my Australorp Aussie. She's head hen. That means she gets to eat first.
At Carla Jean Oldenkamp's Zen Hen House and Garden, everybody gets organically grown food. Daughter Nicole Binnicker and her son Dane love the fresh picks to take home. Dane collects eggs with Carla's husband Dale from chickens that will never be fried.
Yeah, look what we got, egg. Little egg.
It all started in spring 2010 when Carla wanted to grow food that she controlled. Dale removed cedar trees, leveled the land, and built the raised beds for Carla's square-foot gardens.
So the construction of the boxes are 2 by 12 cedars and simply 4-foot squares. So very easy to calculate your lumber cost. You buy 8-foot lumber and you get 2 sides. So basically 2 8-foot pieces of cedar lumber will make one box, screwed together with a frame in the corner, and then placed them and leveled them.
Carla filled them with good soil and started planting. Her robust plants testify to their organic regimen that relies on nutritious soil and fertilizers that promote its microbial activity.
One thing that stuck when I've been learning about gardening is you're not feeding the plants, you're feeding the soil. So that's very important when I'm fertilizing or whatnot, that I'm getting the soil and not the plant, because that's where the plant grows from.
Since the garden feeds the spirit too, Carla nourished its style. Dale formalized its status as a destination and to keep out unwelcome diners. Flowers heighten Carla's scheme, but their main job is to attract vegetable pollinators. In bloom, culinary herbs entice pollinators, while their fragrant leaves repel some garden pests. Companion planting and well-drained soil are the secret to Carla's strawberries.
This is my strawberry patch that we planted in the spring and have had success of it not burning up or rotting, because this little trellis device was created with some leftover materials from the coop, and I put shade cloth on here, and it did shade well. And I also at one point had cantaloupe growing on here, so that their leaves helped shade it. So when the cantaloupe was harvested, then I just put shade cloth on it. But hopefully I'll just put something over to protect it in the winter, and we'll have a nice big strawberry patch next spring. Have some fresh strawberries. These are little baby runners that you can just cut off and put back into the soil.
Planting the garden meant factoring in water.
I've heard a lot of people who've given up on their gardens this past year because of the heat and because of the irrigation system, I think, and the soil composition. It's helped the garden grow.
Dale rented a trencher to install pipes on timed irrigation to each bed.
All the PVC pipe is run underground to the center of each box, and then I had a riser pipe that comes up in the middle of each box. And originally they came up about a foot with a sprinkler head, but again we were able to just cut those off at ground level and apply the drip system directly right over top of what I had already done the first time, so it was very minimal. It's very low water consumption, because the drip system applies the water directly to the soil, so we don't have to worry about wasting water through evaporation.
Carla also wanted eggs produced by chickens raised in humane conditions. They did a lot of research before Dale built the chicken run and coop.
Number one, predator proof. We had heard so many horror stories about animals digging underneath and getting chickens. And space. I wanted them to have plenty of room to run around in their run. They're birds, so just like in any bird cage, people have toys and little exercise things for their birds, and it's the same with chickens. They enjoy getting on the roost and flying around and just having different places to perch, because they are birds and they like to perch. And they like to go underneath the coop, which I wanted also above ground so that they could get out of heat, or that's where they like to go in the day and just sleep.
Dale's sprinkler system also cools them down in summer. Insulation keeps them warm in winter.
With the automatic door, it's very easy to go in and control that door. So it's set to open at 7:30 in the morning, and it closes at 7:30 at night right now. But it's very easy to just walk over with a magnet and you touch it and the door will close. So we could easily, if it's cold out, we could just manually close the door and it'll continue its timer cycle for the next day. So it's very, very low maintenance to make sure your chickens are secure.
A video camera lets them monitor what's going on even when they're away.
One of the challenges is a lot of chicken owners find themselves kind of married to their chickens. They never get to go anywhere. They have to find chicken sitters to take care of them, to let them in, let them out. So the combination of the automatic door and the automated misting systems this summer and the camera give us peace of mind that we don't have to be here every day.
Yeah. Although we did have a chicken sitter, my best friend. She came out and every morning gave them their treats and took care of them.
Carla and Dale also designed an easy way to clean out the coop to dump into a wheelbarrow for the compost pile. Carla took it in stride when one chick turned out to be a rooster, Hawkeye.
A rooster is good to have because he protects the flock from predators. He also intervenes when they're bickering and pecking on one another, and he finds food for them. You like Hawkeye? What does he say? Okay, somebody just laid an egg. It's hysterical. The first time the first egg was laid, all of them started doing that. It was like a hallelujah chorus. They all went off. Bark, 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 bark. So that's the rooster announcing that an egg has been laid. Isn't that wild?
It's also party time when Carla lets everyone out for a run.
They can scratch for bugs in here. When the compost bin is creating worms, then I'll pull out like a watermelon that I've put in there and it's full of worms, and they'll go around there and eat the live worms. They like that a lot too. But at the moment there's no worms in there.
To keep the chickens on the perimeter and not in the garden, Dale built another fence.
Really, this fence probably took me an hour to put up. The challenge with out here, because we're in the rock, is the T-post. So driving the T-post can be very challenging. So where you have rock, I had to use a concrete drill bit and make a hole in the rock first, and then hammer the T-post into the rock, where we had to do that. But other than the T-post setting, it probably took less than an hour to put the fence up.
No question, gardening and chickens means some work. Is it worth it? You bet.
Well, chickens are very meditative, number one. I come out here and I relax with them. I can enter a Zen zone of peace. I wanted this to be an area of peace and tranquility for both me, my husband, and our chickens. So that's where the Zen came in from. And plus it rhymes good with hen. They're my Zen hens.
Thanks so much for sharing your garden with us. And now we're going to be turning our attention to an exciting new industry in Texas. It is the olive oil industry. And I'm joined by John Gambini from Texas Hill Country Olive Company. Thanks for joining us on Central Texas Gardener.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, to me, it's genuinely exciting to think about, alongside our great Texas wine industry, the olive oil industry growing here. You're the largest producer of olive oil in the state. You have the largest acreage.
No, I'm the largest certified organic olive orchard in
Texas. Well, that
Texas.
counts too. And tell me why you got into this industry. What was it that was attractive about it?
I have always wanted to start a small family farm and get my family involved in it, working day to day, so that really a business that could last for generation after generation. Olive trees live to be thousands of years old.
Right. Well, and there's a long history of olive orchards passing from father to son for many thousands of years, and they're highly prized little patches of land all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're in Dripping Springs.
Yes, sir.
And you have 16 acres of trees.
That's correct.
Wow. And we'll be talking about your products, but there is a wide variety of products associated with the olives that you're producing right now. But I want to get started by talking about olive oil itself. One thing that I learned recently that really shocked me is that, and I've been buying olive oil for years, and when I go to the store, I assume when it's labeled olive oil, that's what it is. But I've just learned that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an article done by the Austin Chronicle many months ago, and UC Davis had done a study out of California, and it turned out that 69% of the olive oils in the grocery stores have been adulterated in some form or fashion. And the dirty little secret is really Europe, where most of the oil comes from, does not grow enough olives to produce enough oil for all of their consumption.
Okay, so they're mixing in canola oil and other oils?
Exactly.
Ah, okay. So what we think is this super healthy oil that we're using, not necessarily so.
Not necessarily.
Okay, well, that's a little depressing to think about if you've been using it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
However, we do know that we can buy the real thing here in Texas, right?
You absolutely can. There's many fine growers here in Texas besides myself, but we're all dedicated to producing premium, extra virgin, pure olive oil.
Well, and to those of us who really appreciate that fine taste of good olive oil, this is exciting news. Now, typically, where are your products found? I know that farmers markets probably are a great option for that.
Yeah, we consider ourselves one of the premium producers, if not the premium producer in Texas. And we're primarily at farmers markets in 4 major cities: Austin, Dallas, Houston, and Waco right now. We do tons of festivals. We do about 65 festivals a year.
Wow.
And you can find us there. Central Market actually carries my Sola Stella olive oil and my traditional balsamic vinegar.
Okay, well, that's terrific. And speaking of festivals, I understand that your oils are winning awards.
Absolutely. We've competed 3 years in a row in what used to be the largest olive oil competition out in LA. Over 600 olive oils from 23 countries compete each year.
That's
and
cool.
We've won medals 3 years in a row.
Well, in the wine industry, they would toast to that, and I guess you would dip to that in the olive oil industry.
Absolutely, you dip to it.
Okay, very good. Now, let's talk about some of the terminology. What does virgin and extra virgin mean when we're talking about olive oil?
Well, extra virgin, which is the highest quality oil and the one that's the most healthy for you, is primarily oil that has free acid measurement of less than 1%, typically 0.08% and less. And the lower that number is, the better it is for you. And it's also oil in the United States. We've made it a designation that it's oil that's been pressed from the olives within 72 hours of picking.
Okay. And I understand that's your practice, is you harvest in the day and then you press at night.
That's correct.
Yeah. So absolutely fresh in that. So it's not just an indicator of what's in the olive, but it's also an indicator of freshness, really.
Freshness, and when you get to know a grower like myself, then you know that freshness is going to be there. But the polyphenols and the antioxidants in the oil, because it was pressed so early like that, is what makes it so healthy for you.
Okay. Now, you know, John, that a lot of folks out there are very excited about growing their own food nowadays.
That's
The
right.
Fruit trees, you name it. People want to have food produced in their backyard. Now, olive trees can be grown in anybody's backyard in Central Texas, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
But harvesting the fruit and getting something from the fruit is a little different. For the home gardener, what do you recommend for use of the fruit once it does start producing?
Yeah, because it takes so many olives to make a gallon of olive oil and the proper equipment to press it with, we really highly recommend that they just brine the olives and make table olives out of them. It's a fairly simple process that can be easily done, and you can find the instructions online anywhere.
Okay, and so for pressing though, what's involved in that from your perspective? Because this is a big operation.
Absolutely. Pressing it takes on average 2,000 pounds of olives to create 45 gallons of oil. Some olive varieties produce more oil, some produce less, but a general rule of thumb is 40 to 45 gallons. You have to have a hammer mill to cut and slice the olives into paste, then transfer it into a malaxer to begin the separation process. Then it goes from there into a centrifuge, and we have a horizontal
And we
centrifuge.
all have centrifuges at home.
Everybody has one at their house, where the final separation of oil and water and paste occurs.
Right.
And once you have the oil come out of that machine, then you've got pure premium extra virgin oil.
Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't sound like the kind of thing I'm going to be doing in my kitchen, but it sure sounds like something I'd go out and try to search out in the stores or actually visit you, and it's something that people can do, of course, right?
Right. We're open 6 days a week, every day except Tuesday. We have a 6,000 square foot mill house, tasting room, bistro cafe, retail store, and we also have a little art gallery.
Just like the wine industry.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we want you to come out. We're open 11 to 6 and every day except Sunday, which is 12 to 6.
And you have a festival too, which people can check out in April of the year, right?
Yeah, in April 5th of 2014, we'll be having our second annual Olive Festival.
Okay.
And we're really excited about it because we incorporate olives, wine, great food, which Central Texas is known for.
Sure.
And we just have a great time, music as well.
Well, you have all different grades of olive oil, of course, available, but you also have olive oil that's infused with flavors too, right?
That's correct. We have dry roasted garlic infused, we have a lemon infused, and we have a jalapeno infused.
That sounds interesting. The lemon one sounds most interesting to me because I have a dish that sounds like that would be perfect for. Now, getting back to the homeowner, a lot of people are curious. Olive trees, for one thing, they're just beautiful plants.
Absolutely,
They have
they're evergreen.
Beautiful, rugged character to them. What are some of the better varieties? If somebody does want to plant one in their backyard, what would you recommend?
Well, I would highly recommend the Arbequina olive tree because it is self-pollinizing or self-fertile.
Okay, that makes a big difference, obviously.
The Mission tree is also a good tree. It's very cold hardy. And you'll get olives even without a pollinizer there. It's always better to have 2 trees than one.
Okay, just like most fruit trees, right?
Exactly.
Well, this is an exciting new day, really, for us in Central Texas to have this. You're located again in Dripping Springs, and we hope people will visit you. Again, it's Texas Hill Country Olive Company, John Gambini. We really appreciate you coming. We hope people will check you out either by visiting you in Dripping Springs or looking for you in area farmers market. So thanks for being on Central Texas Gardener.
Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate your time.
All right, take care. And coming up next is our friend Daphne.
Hi, I'm Daphne Richards, and this is Augie. Our plant this week is dill, an easy herb that also brings beauty to the garden. With its feathery, bright green foliage and lovely upside-down umbrella-shaped inflorescence, dill makes a striking addition to any area of the garden. Dill's frost tender, so plant in late spring once all danger of frost is past. The seeds are very small and should be scattered and lightly scratched into the soil. Dill thrives in well-drained soil with lots of organic matter. Since dill's an annual, you'll have time between growing seasons to amend the soil and compost it each year. I find that tucking 1 or 2 annual herbs and flowers into my established landscape areas really helps to bring new life to the yard, and dill's a great herb to bring a little spring cheer back to a struggling summer garden. Dill's a host plant, so be prepared to share your plant with some beautiful visitors. Dill grows very quickly and may tend to fall over, especially if exposed to windy conditions or if planted in too much shade. So be sure to give it at least 6 hours of sun and plant it in a protected spot. If you'd like to harvest the seeds for cooking, cut the entire flower stalk just as the seeds begin to ripen, and then allow the stalk to dry. You can also use dill leaves in pickling, soups, and other savory dishes. Harvest fresh leaves and use them immediately since the flavor is lost fairly quickly. Cutting your dill to use in the kitchen will actually invigorate it, causing it to branch and grow and produce more leaves and flowers for harvest. Our question this week was prompted by the flurry of emails that I got after our recent heavy rains. A lot of people had plants falling over, and some were even splitting apart. All of the plants in question were drought-tolerant choices, which are a hugely beneficial addition to our gardens in the current years-long drought. But this situation offers me the opportunity to talk a little about the key to success with drought-tolerant species, and that's soil. If you live in an area with heavy clay soil, and many of us do, low water use plants will struggle when we actually have rainfall. Many of these species are native to desert regions where the soil is very porous, so in their native environment, even if it rains, the soil doesn't hold water for long. And that's not true of our clay soil, which holds water for a very long time. And if desert species, which are adapted to very dry conditions, stay wet for too long, they'll rot and fall over. Artemisia, senna, cassia, agaves, and yuccas are just a few of the plants that suffered in the recent deluge that brought almost 13 inches of rain to central Austin. That's just too much water for most desert species to handle. If you can, build berms or raised areas in the garden for drought-tolerant species and use very sandy, porous soil to amend those planting beds. Raising the roots out of the heavy clay soil helps to keep them a little drier. It's a great idea to move to more heat and drought-tolerant species, but we need to understand how to change the entire landscape to better mimic the natural environment of these plants. Building berms and swales to channel the water away from certain areas is a perfect way to do this. We'd love to hear from you, so please visit klru.org/ctg to send us your questions and plants from your garden.
Thanks, Daphne. Now let's check in with John Dromgoole.
Hello, gardening friends. Welcome to Backyard Basics. You ever go into a nursery and the pot's just full of plants? Here's an example, this chard right here. Gosh, there's quite a few in there. And you really only want one nice, big, good-looking chard. So maybe there's an opportunity for you. Don't be scared about doing this. A lot of gardeners don't know how to take them apart. But here's one of those pots right here. Now I've begun to just tease them loose a little bit. See how many are in there? And so they're pretty hardy, so you can break it up a bit. And then once you've got down to this level right here, I like to go ahead and put them into a little bit of water and get the rest of that soil off of there. See, it's coming off very nicely here. And then we can take them apart more easily. See that root mass? That's just not right for growing some chard or any other vegetable that you might find in a container that there's quite a few of. They're just not going to do well. They're not designed to do that. So I'll take these apart gently. They're hardy. Here's another one right here. Look at that. That's just a mess. The growers do that so they look better faster. They put several seeds in the pot. Well, that's just not the way to do that. Here we come. We've got several of them coming loose. So once they're all loose, the next thing to do is to pot them up. Sometimes they wilt a little bit, and that's okay. They'll recuperate in a few days. Here we go. We've got several of them kind of coming apart right now. There we go. We've teased them apart. That's the term for using when you're taking, see that? Look how many chards we have at this point. And there's several more in here. Look, there's another 3 to work with. So now we have a bunch of plants. Now the deal is a deal. And you need to get them going though. You need a good potting soil once again. And you need one that drains well. Good looking potting soil. Maybe a little bit of earthworm casting. It always helps to have some earthworm casting. So here we go. We've got this one of the separate ones. We'll put them in there, and then I'll put a little potting soil around it. Spread the roots out. Do that. You'll be able to get a better plant standing up much better if you can just get some soil around it. Won't hurt at all. Look at that. Now we have one chard, and then here, these have multiple colors also. This is like a rainbow in the garden. I really like this. They get so big, you know, when they're crowded that way, I don't really know how they're going to survive. So a lot of people think that this is a very good way to buy them, and it really isn't. They're competing for nutrients, they're competing for water. It's not the best thing to do. I did these a few weeks ago, and I just did the exact same thing that I showed you. And so now they are recuperating. They flagged a little bit. They kind of looked like they weren't going to make it. And then in a few days, they did snap out of it. So here we are. They're coming along very nicely. When you put them in there, make sure that you take the air out. Just settle them down, a little bit of water, gently going in there. And there we are. We've now got at least 6 chard plants. They'll do really well, and that's the way to grow them. So it's not a good deal to find them that way in the pot, but it's a very good deal when you separate them. You'll find them at your garden center, and you'll do really well when you find them to take apart, pot up, and don't be afraid of doing it. It's real easy. For Backyard Basics, I'm John Dromgoole. I'll see you next time.
Find out more at klru.org/CTG and check us out on Facebook. Next week, Mary Irish joins us for Getting Started Tips. Until then, I'll see you in the garden.
To learn about today's program, watch online, and follow CTG's blog, check out klru.org/CTG.
Support for Central Texas Gardener comes from GeoGrowers, offering custom soil blends for lawns, gardens, xeriscaping, and organic landscaping supplies. More information at geogrowers.net.